So I'm taking an ad account that's spending 0, and I'm going to spend 300K in its first 30 days, and I'm going to document the results. Although it should probably be spending 220K because we've kind of changed the budget, which I explained in the last video. But as of right now, as I'm filming this, we're halfway through the month. So we've been running ads for just over 2 weeks now. And this is how we're shaping up. So as of right now, we've spent $96,000 in ad spend. We've got just under 18,000 leads, and it's a cost per lead of $5.42. So we're in a pretty good spot. I do want to try and keep the cost per lead as low as $5, and I want to try and get there. There's been a few campaigns, which I'll show you inside the ad account in a second, that have just been dramatically like increasing our cost per lead on average, which I'm trying to sort. But I know based on previous conversions, and I've talked about this in the previous videos in this mini series, that we can probably go to like over $7 and still be like pretty profitable. But obviously I want to try and get the best results. So right now, yesterday, we spent 7.5K. We'll probably spend similar, honestly. We're in a good spot in terms of the projection. So right now, I projected that we would spend around 92, and we spent 96. So we're a little bit further ahead. But we don't need to spend that much more, only like $1,000 or $2,000 more a day until the end. So there's going to be no crazy scaling. So all things working correctly, there shouldn't be like a massive spike in cost per lead, which obviously if you try and like go from spending, 5K to 10K in like one day, sometimes the cost per lead can kind of get out of whack. So we've been taking it pretty slowly, and I've been spending around, as you can see, probably about around 7K a day for the last week, just trying to figure out what campaigns are getting the best cost per lead, trying to keep the cost per lead low, and trying to, obviously optimize the results. Obviously, as we are spending more, the cost per lead is increasing. So we kind of, in the first week, started off around $4. Now we've kind of gone up on a daily cost per lead of like $6. We've not hit $7 yet, but obviously we're in an upwards trend, which I'm trying to fix. Obviously, just as we increase the spend, though, it is going to increase. So that's what we're looking at right now. Let's have a look inside of the ad account. So far this month, you can see from Feb, I will sort it on, we've sorted it by cost per lead at the top. So the best performers are at the top. So this is like a retargeting the warm audience. This is a client's account, by the way. Didn't even say that at the start of the video. So this is a client's account. This is a retargeting campaign. So that's why cost per lead is super low, $2.30. That's obviously good. We're going to continue to spend in that, but the goal of this is to convert cold traffic, not retarget warm people. So, we'll probably spend out of the 220, I reckon we'll probably get up to about 15K in retargeting. That's kind of like what I see. But again, I'm not really like putting all my hopes on that campaign. That's just kind of like an added bonus. And then we got some decent campaigns here. So 1, 2, 3. This is a campaign targeting the US. This is a campaign targeting the EU. And this is a campaign targeting the US. So that's why I'm not really trying to scale this. This is $500 from the beginning. And I don't really want to increase it because I want to try and put most of our budget towards the US campaigns, just because that's going to be our best customers. That's what most of our customers are from the US, the clients from the US. So that kind of just makes sense. So what I've been doing basically with the best campaigns, which have been basically this one here, and then this one a little bit, although the cost per lead has gone a little bit higher. These are all US. And I've been increasing the budget basically like 15% every few days. So you can see they all started at $500. You can see now this is spending $872. This is over $1,000. This is just $660 because the cost per lead has gone up a little bit in this past week. So I didn't want to increase the spend anymore. So the goal is to basically increase this budget here of the winning campaigns and keep the others stable that aren't targeting the US. And hopefully we can scale that way. I have launched another scaling campaign here, which I'll mention in a second, and I'll talk about what this campaign is because I only launched that yesterday. So we're in a pretty good spot. I don't think it was on this video. I don't think it was, shown on the last video, but I think I did this after the last video. But I've turned off these campaigns. You can see at the bottom here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. These are all turned off. And obviously, as you can see, the cost per lead is just way too high. Every single one of them is like over $8. And like $7.50 is kind of like my cutoff point where I'm just going to be like, nah, like I kind of just give up. I think for some of them, I did try and, resurrect them. And some of them started pretty well. But I think I've talked about these in previous videos as well. They just didn't work. I tried to launch some more creative that had worked in the other campaigns, but I just wasn't getting close, honestly. And funnily enough, all 4 of these are targeting Canada. So, yeah, I don't know. Canadians don't like my ads for whatever reason, which is strange because like culturally and stuff, it's fairly similar to the US. So it's weird that the US is by far the best performing, but Canadian campaigns aren't working very well. If you want to understand like why I've got so many different campaigns targeting the separate countries, it's basically because I'm trying to scale quickly. Go from like 200K spend in a month isn't big, but going from 0 to 200K in 30 days is quite the challenge. So I've got multiple campaigns just to help me get there versus just having one campaign and just, spending 10K a day straight out the gate, because I just personally don't think that would get the best results. So I split it out by country. Whatever reason, Canada didn't like it. So yeah, I've turned all of these off. This one is another scaling campaign that I tried that I launched like 2 days ago. And it's kind of like stop spending. You can see, and I'll talk about why in a second, but it's only spent $500, but the cost per lead is super high. And this is also targeting Canada. So yeah, I think and this is a good lesson. For whatever reason, I just believe that because it's working to the US, it should just work for Canada. And even though the data down here tells me like 1, 2, 3, 4, all of these Canadian campaigns weren't working, I still tried to launch a scaling campaign to Canada because I was just like, no, it's going to work. And clearly it hasn't. So when you're managing ads, you just need to get rid of any kind of like personal bias or opinion or belief or, my belief that it could work wasn't even, it wasn't founded in any truth whatsoever because the data is telling me that it wouldn't work. But I just, no, I just really want to get a Canadian campaign to work because that will help. And yeah, obviously it's not worked. So yeah, I'm going to monitor it so you can see if we highlight it here. Yesterday, it spent 427, and today it's only spent 72. We're quite early on in the US day as I'm filming this video, but it's clearly not spending as much as the others, and it's got $1,000 a day budget. So it's got a cost cap, which is why it's being restricted. So let's go into the scaling campaign so I kind of explain why I'm doing it this way. So if I had these campaigns, like say, for example, these campaigns up here with the US, if this was like an evergreen campaign, then I'd probably just continue to try and increase those budgets and try and consolidate in as little campaigns as possible. But again, because I'm trying to go from 0 to 220K in spend in 30 days, I just don't want to increase the budget massively, super quickly. And I basically created like an extra scaling campaign. So the extra scaling campaigns are these two here, which you can see in, you can see the $1,000 a day budget. These are cost caps. They're not even called cost caps anymore. I think they're called cost per result goal. Like basically, instead of just saying, send me as many leads for as cheap as you can, I'm saying, hey, only send me leads if it's under this price point. And the price point is $7. So these two campaigns are mainly our best performing ads. And obviously our best performing ads are getting leads for, less than $5. But I'll just set it as $7 and just give basically the algorithm a little bit of room to basically work, right? I could have maybe set it as $5 cost cap, but there's maybe a larger chance there that it's not going to spend. So I just gave it $7. And what you'll find is, typically what I found is number one, the campaign will work like this one is working. And even though the even though the cost cap is $7, it's probably going to get me leads cheaper than that. So you can see it's not too much cheaper. It's $6, but it's still cheaper than some of the other campaigns. And if we go into it, and this is, less than 48 hours old, by the way. So, it's still got some learning to do, and hopefully it's going to optimize even further. You can see some of them are under $6 as well. And you can see this one is getting close to come under $6, which is basically taking up most of the spend. So if we go look at yesterday when it first launched, you can see it spent $1,000. So it spent the full budget, which is good, because obviously, again, if a cost cap campaign, Facebook can't get the conversion for as cheap as you want, it just won't spend money. So it's good when it spends the full money because it is probably going to achieve the goal. So it spent $1,000, which is good, but the cost was $6.14, which is, again, it's okay because this is my scaling campaign. It's only $1,000 a day, but it's still within the KPI that I'm comfortable spending money on, which is basically $7.50, but I wouldn't be super happy if this was like above $7. So $6.14, it's okay to stomach that in the first 24 hours because it's still learning, etc., etc. But you can see today, well, I don't even know what it is today, 6.03. So you can see that we're only, again, we're not too far in the day, but it spent $300 and it's got a cost per lead of $6.03. So I'm hoping that because the machine is learning, it's trying to figure out which ads convert and work, then hopefully that will continue to decrease and I can continue to scale this campaign and the cost per lead is getting lower. But again, it's been live for less than 48 hours. So we can't make too many conclusions, but so far so good. And basically the plan right now will be to continue to scale this cost cap campaign, not launch any new campaigns, but increase the budget on this one. And then this one, and then this one, which are all US based, just basically put all of our extra budget to there. And hopefully if we can continue to increase the budget on those every couple of days, that's going to make up for the loss in spend that we experienced here because we turned off 4 of these campaigns, which is about $2,000 a day, which is obviously going to take us from about like $7,500 in spend a day to $5,500 because that's obviously what we were kind of spending. So hopefully I've launched those cost cap campaigns and the increase in budget every couple of days is hopefully going to get us past and we can actually get up to, 8, 9, 10K a day in spend towards the end of this advertising period. So that's kind of like the game plan with how we're going to scale. Let's talk about this Let's talk about this cost cap campaign down here. So like I said, this is a Canadian cost cap campaign, which I suppose, looking back now, stupidly launched. And this is kind of like the other scenario that will happen when you launch a cost cap campaign. So the first scenario was it'll probably work, it'll spend the budget, and it'll probably get you leads for cheaper than what the cost cap was, which in this case was $7. Or scenario number 2 is what will happen here. Because some people will say like, oh, why can't I just launch a cost cap campaign and put the budget at like $10,000 and put a cost cap of like, if it's like, I don't know, lead, whatever like the ideal conversion would be, right? So if it's leads, it could be like $5. Or if you're selling like a $50 product, maybe you do a cost cap of like $40 cost per purchase. And you're just like, why can't I just put that? Because Facebook isn't going to spend the money if it can't get sales for less than $40. So it's not going to waste my money. And I understand why people ask that question, but no, that's unfortunately not how it works. Because you can see here that this is spent money and our cost per lead is $9.99, which is way higher than the $7 cost cap. So then you're like, well, does the cost cap not work? Like, what's the issue here? And it does work eventually because you can see that yesterday it tried to spend the $1,000, but it couldn't. So it basically stopped spending. And that's why it didn't spend the full budget. So effectively, what is going to happen in the beginning? And that's why you can't just set a big budget of like $10,000 a day on a cost cap, because it will go out and it will try and spend the money to get the conversions at the price that you want. And that initial period, it will spend the money. And then when it gets the data back, it will then make the decision of like, can we continue spending or should we stop? And that's why you see some cost cap campaigns stop spending like this one. Some of them might not spend at all. Like straight away, Facebook might know, like, no, this, you know, if I put this as a cost per result of $1, right, for the lead, it's probably not going to spend any money. You might spend, you know, $5 and it'll just stop because it's just like, no way can we get a lead for that price. But if you get like a realistic cost per conversion, then it is going to spend the money, and then it's going to get data back, and then it's going to decide, okay, well, I can't get, you know, leads or purchases for that price. So if we look at like this one, for example, if we go in here at the individual ads, there's 5 ads in here. And if we look at the leads, you can see it's spent way more than, you know, the $7 that I wanted, but all of them are pretty much way over the cost per lead. So then it's just been like, yeah, nah, I'm not going to spend any money. So that's like kind of like how it works. If we look at today, it's still spent $89 because it is trying. And you can see that this one here, this second ad set in the campaign, if we look at yesterday, it did actually kind of get to it. If we look at the ads, we got 4 ads. We had a couple here that was working a little bit, but again, Facebook basically stopped spending money on these, which basically tells me that Facebook wasn't confident that it could continue to spend money on these ads and still get the cost per lead below $7. But you can see that this one is trying to spend a little bit. So this one's kind of got like a little bit of potential. But again, it's not spending all the money because Facebook doesn't believe that it can get it for the price. So yeah, definitely don't launch a campaign and just put $10,000 as a daily budget and just do a cost cap and expect either to make a shitload of money for good profit or it just not to spend at all, because it will spend money in the beginning to try and figure out if it can continue spending. So if you put your daily budget of 10 grand on a campaign, then it could spend like 4 or 5 grand trying to figure out if it can get it for the cost that you want. And if it can't, it'll stop. But it still spent the 4 or 5K with, you know, no sales or little sales or sales without profit. So yeah, that's kind of what's happening right now. Feeling pretty good. I think looking back, as always, I suppose with everything, like, I wish we had more creative. I wish we had more ads and videos to test. And I've talked about this in a previous video. Absolutely love these clients. They're friggin' awesome. We don't maybe have the amount of creatives that would necessarily be required or would be ideal. And that's probably on me, just not managing the relationship as well and kind of like stressing the importance of getting more and more creative. But these guys are like super busy and they've got a million different things going on. So I've found it not to be super easy for them to just, you know, me to send through like an ad video request and be like, hey, can you film these 10 ads for us? And they'll just get them back the next day just because, yeah, it doesn't work like that. Again, probably on me, not managing the relationship as well as I could, but, you know, I try it, and we definitely have more this launch than we have sometimes previously, but that's still definitely a challenge with that. But yeah, other than that, we're looking pretty good. Obviously, I'm a little bit worried that the daily cost per lead is getting up there, but I think now that Canadian cost cap, I'm probably just going to kill that. It looks like I wanted to give it just like 2 or 3 days because it's not spending all the budget. So I just wanted to give it 2 or 3 days just to see if it would spend. Maybe I'll go in and turn off some of the more expensive ad sets within the cost cap to see if it will put more budget towards that one we just looked at, what that was getting like an okay cost per lead. But after like 2-3 days, if it's not spending or the cost per lead's too high, then obviously I'll just turn it off. And then I think from now on, then it's just focus on, let's just put all the budget or the extra budget that we need, the extra, you know, 2-3 grand a day, just put that towards the big scale, the big scale. I know 1,000 a day isn't that big when it comes to scaling, but the scaling campaign and the other ones that were working well. So yeah, we're 2 weeks out, pretty much on track, just under half the budget spent, feeling pretty good. And yeah, if you guys, as always, got any questions on the strategy, the ads, what happens after they register for the event, just let us know. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.